just a quick couple of words before we get the show started today. The big day at Sam Houston Race Park has come and gone for this winter sort of spring meet, but there's still a few days of racing left. We've got this coming weekend and then a few extra days tacked on as well. This is still a place you should be paying attention to. Industry low, 12% takeouts on horizontal wagers. We've got Nick Tamaro in the booth. We've got Jessica Paquette giving tips on social media and via the broadcast as well. And we're covering the meet thoroughly here at InTheMoneyPodcast.com. So don't forget about Sam Houston. Just a few days left to learn more about what they've got going on. Go to SHRP.com. Today's show also brought to you in part by our friends at the Golden Hour Pick 4, the Golden Hour Double, First Racing, Santa Anita, Golden Gate Fields. This is one of our favorite wagers as well, combining Northern and Southern California. It plays out very quickly in the span of about 45 minutes any day that Golden Gate and Santa Anita are running between their also industry low takeout and their higher minimums. This is a very player-friendly wager that often pays more than it should. We'll be covering it on the late week show, the Saturday version. But like I said, any day they're both running, you can play this bet. It's one of the best ones out there. Check out the Golden Hour Pick 4. Get involved and win some money. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players Podcast. This is our show for Monday, March 28th. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatal, back with you in the Brooklyn bunker once again, and very happy to be joined once again by a man. I used to describe him as the usual co-host of this program. That's basically going to be the case during this very busy and exciting Triple Crown season. So we'll get right back to that. He's a man who you've seen his fantastic work in handicapping contests all around the nation and also on Fox News. He's also never slapped anybody in an awards show. He is Jonathan Kinchin. What's up, JK?
You know what, though? I can see somebody getting slapped in a certain awards show in a certain situation. That's funny. That's very funny. Funny enough, I'll tell a funny story. A friend who had a chance of winning an Eclipse Award this year didn't think they were going to win and did say, if I knew I was going to win, I would have had you accept on my behalf.
I can only imagine who that might be, actually. Oh my God, that's too funny.
It's surprising. It's a person that is pretty funny. But hey, so I thought of this. Last week we had the assignment of, you got the Brooklyn bunker, playing at Texas, Little House on the East Side. I think I figured it out.
Let's hear it.
Let's go with Casa de Rojo.
Casa de Rojo, the Red House.
We are in a red house here, and
I
Casa
love
de
it.
Rojo.
That rolls off the tongue too, and any excuse to work on my Espanol is good as well. I do have to ask: were you watching the show last night? It's all anyone is talking about anywhere in the world, so I figured we'll lead off the show with it here.
So I woke up this morning, and I wake up, earlier than she does, and as soon as she opened her eyes, she grabbed her phone. I said, "Don't look. Don't look. I want to tell you. And
Susan woke me up at about 4:30 in the morning to tell me, by the way.
So I feel two ways about it in a serious way. I feel two ways about it. I have been guilty of someone poking at a loved one for something that I know they have really struggled with, and I black out mad.
Yeah.
Like blackout mad. Because I know that person's been struggling with whatever that thing is. So I have no problem with Will Smith doing what he did. I get it. I also don't have a problem with Chris Rock making a joke. It was a joke. It was a bad joke. When comedians are trying to be funny, they take risks at trying to be funny. And they miss sometimes. And he missed. And Will Smith did not. My favorite tweet I saw all day was Will Smith clearly didn't learn. That's why his ass ended up in Bel Air.
That's pretty funny.
Oh,
that's pretty funny. We've got horse racing to talk about as well, but I couldn't resist getting your quick take on that one before we got going on the show day. And we're going to go back to our we used to call this like the listener appreciation format. We just let the crowd let the crowd program the show. I went through the questions and I moved them around in an order to have some sort of a flow, because we most definitely need to begin talking about the events of last weekend. And I love the first question we got, because it's one that needs to be discussed. And I think, having talked to you a little bit off air, that you're going to have an opinion about it that's going to be a contrarian opinion. This is something I chatted about a lot on Sky Sports Racing over the weekend, and it goes back to the Dubai World Cup and Life is Good. And if his failure in the Dubai World Cup was simply a case of the 10 furlongs being too far for him, just answer that one straight up.
No, I mean, I'm a huge believer, and it's hard without the pace figures. And I know they don't have a run up there, so it's just tough to really evaluate. What I can tell you is that who I believe is the fastest horse in the world, which is Life is Good, what he did in terms of making the lead the Pegasus World Cup in front of who else was a fast horse in Knicks Go, as close as those other horses were to him, I don't believe they were going that fast. Now, I could be completely wrong, and Craig Milkowski and some others might say that it was honest enough, but I still don't think they were going that fast early for those horses to be that close to him. So I am going to side with go faster, use your weapon, take a page out of Knicks Go's book, open up, use what Life is good at, instead of inviting horses who are going to outkick you. It might be more accustomed to going 1.25 miles. It was disappointing. I felt like he was talented enough and good enough that he should have won regardless of the situation, but maybe he's not that good. He has to be in a situation to show himself that he's that good. I think he needs to go faster.
I get where you're coming from, and it's totally contrarian, and there's a world in which it could totally backfire. And as tired as the horses look coming home, it didn't look like it was a slow pace that they were quickening off of. But I had the exact same thought, and I said the same thing on TV that you just said there, JK, which is, look how close the closers were to him. He's clearly capable of going faster, and maybe you get to that sort of through the looking glass of pace dynamics where everything else gets off the bridle and he's able to just decelerate less slowly than the rest. It's also possible he could have run last had he done what we were attempting to do. But obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, what they tried didn't work. So I think it's worth thinking about in terms of potential next steps for him.
And I don't know if you can help me out. If I knew someone who's a New York Times bestselling author to help me find the right word. So to me, it's less about hindsight and it's more about foresight, because to be fair, at this point, I don't give a damn if he can go 1.25 miles, because I don't have to figure that out again for a very long time. Probably not until the first Saturday in November will I actually have to answer that question. And I'm going to have probably 3 more bodies of work to evaluate the type of animal that he is, right? He's going to probably run in a race. He probably won't make the Met Mile. They'll probably give him some time. Maybe they do get him ready for the Met Mile. He'll be able to prove himself there. I'm certain we'll see him in a race like the Whitney. And then he'll have a chance to prep wherever Todd decides to prep him, whether it's at Keeneland, something soft, or maybe it's a race like the Foster, or even a race like the Jockey Club Gold Cup, a 1-turn 1.25 miles. So maybe we do answer that question there. I'm not worried about it. That race is over and it's done, and it's good to have the quick conversation, but he's going to have a body of work and a lot of time until he's got to do it again.
Met Mile next, do you think?
It just depends on what Todd decides to do from a timing standpoint. To be fair, if your goal is for him to win the Whitney and to win, I would think at this point, from a stallion making standpoint, the dirt mile is probably pretty darn close to equaling what it is that the Met Mile is. From a stallion pedigree situation, I don't think he needs that race to advance himself as a stallion. So why not give him a break coming back from Dubai, avoid all that ridiculous Dubai bounce stuff, give him some time leading up into the summer, prep him at, late at Belmont, run him in the Whitney, and then run him, in whatever race you decide leading into the Breeders' Cup. There's not a real rush to hurry him back, I don't think.
Sounds like you'd be leaning that way. And this will tell us what Todd Pletcher thinks about the question of if it was the 10 furlongs, because if he's thinking, hey, to really prove this horse, to really make him the best stallion he could be, I want to win that Breeders' Cup Classic, you'd campaign in one way. And if it was, we've got this awesome racehorse and we want to win a bunch of cool races and a lot of money, my Met Mile idea might make more sense. So he'll
Absolutely.
tip his hand in terms of what he thinks.
I'd love to see him in the Met Mile. I'd love to see him in who knows what's going to happen with Flightline. I mean, I've heard that they're going to try to make the race. I'll believe it when I see it and hope that it happens. Love to see those two hook up in a situation like that. But, you know, if I had to get my choice, I'd rather see Life is Good run in the Whitney if I got to pick one of the two.
Okay. Why? Just curious. Why is that? Just because Saratoga?
Yeah, because the Met Mile will probably be good anyways. And I just, the Whitney Day is fun when there's a superstar. It adds to the excitement of the sale coming up in the next couple of days. And, you know, I want to see the stars run there. If I got to pick one, I'd want to see him run in Saratoga.
I hear what you're saying there. That makes sense to me. This wasn't a question that came in, but while we're talking about Dubai, did you participate from a wagering point of view? Any other particular performances that impressed you coming out of the day?
No, I did participate. I played an exacta with him on top, weighted exacta with like 6 other horses. Obviously, I got beat there. That was the only bet I made. I woke up to watch Casa Creed run. Just Lee Einseidler, just becoming friendly with him. I wanted to root for that horse. He ran fine. I mean, he just always kind of shows up and picks up his feet. But there was nothing else that really jumped out to me. Switzerland was a little bit shocking. A horse that feels like it's been running for 10 years, and I think he almost has. So, but no, I didn't really participate in the turf stuff just because, it's not my strong suit, especially overseas when I don't have a lot of the information and understanding of paces and ground and things of that nature. So I just I watched to see how Colonel Liam ran, and that was about it.
Certainly, we have to at least make a quick mention of the Japanese dominance over there. Just unbelievable what they've been able to do between the performance of the Breeders' Cup and then at Saudi and now in Dubai as well. We were fortunate to get some good information on the shows from Michael Adolphson and Eric DeCoster on the website. Stephen Bonnick had some great insights. And then Klaus Ebner, best of all. Klaus Ebner talked about, I mean, if you listen to what he said on the Friday podcast about Japanese runners in Dubai, you couldn't help but cash. But I mean, this is clearly a thing going forward. And who knows, maybe at this point, the market's going to tip and there's going to be Japanese horses at the Breeders' Cup that are 10-1, that should be 20-1 kind of thing. But I think we all have to be taking second and third looks at the Japanese contingent wherever they appear in the world at this point. Are you sold on their quality?
I mean, look, the proof is in the pudding, right? They're winning big races. If you look back to the Breeders' Cup, for instance, it wasn't like they were these overly dominant performances, right? There were 2 horses won. It wasn't like it was some shocking thing, and it's like they beat some monsters, right? Latruska didn't show up in the distaff, and Dunbar Road was our best shot, and she was almost written off halfway through the year. So I wouldn't go out of control of them coming over here and winning a bunch of dirt races, but I do think that there is something to be said, and I heard someone that I respect kind of suggest that their involvement in our sales and getting some of the American bloodlines into their mix is kind of added to their speed from a
no doubt
kind of already a stamina laden program.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's been unbelievable. And you go back and you look at the sales of breeding aged horses, and the top broodmares, a lot of them are going to Japan in disproportionate numbers, and the results are already happening. And I think it's a trend we got to keep an eye on. It'll be interesting to see if they have horses showing up. Triple Crown races, that's such a different animal. I'm not going to be giving over credit to Japanese runners should they show up there, but I'm certainly not going to be dismissing them out of hand based on what we've seen either. It'll be interesting to see. Speaking of the Kentucky Derby, we have a Derby question. Epicenter getting the job done in the Louisiana Derby, earning a 3-digit buyer speed figure in the process, showing that he can stalk and pounce as well as win on the lead. This is a horse that Chris Andrews from VSiN, from the South Point in Las Vegas, who we had on the show a couple of weeks ago, had talked about how enthusiastic he was about at that time, especially at the prices he was then. Those bigger numbers are going to be gone now on Epicenter. While you chat, I'll take a look and see what the current prices are. But the question, and I'll let you answer it, JK, how serious of a contender is Epicenter for the Kentucky Derby?
I hate trying to be like, first take-ish and like, ooh, shocking. I feel, I don't want to say guarantee, but I feel like it's almost a foregone conclusion that he'll hit the Super.
Okay.
Like, he's got that style that he doesn't have to have the lead, but he's tactical. He can rate. He's trained by a Hall of Famer that understands the race, although he's never won it. He finishes his races. He ran well at a mile and 3/16. I just feel like he's like kind of like Gun Runner. And I mean, not Gun Runner, the Gun Runner that left us. I'm talking about the Gun Runner that is a 3-year-old. Just consistent, just shows up. He's going to run around there. He's going to end up working out a good trip. If Zandon does what I think Zandon's going to do, one of my definite strategies is going to be to do a 3-horse key in the Super where I'm going to have Epicenter, Zandon, and Forbidden Kingdom in first with logical. And then I'll do logical with those 3 in second. And I'll do that all the way down to third and fourth. I just feel like those horses have to be in the mix, and especially Epicenter. I thought he ran really well. I'm not cutting in line to bet him to win. I wouldn't be shocked if he won. It would make me sick to my stomach after my 9th mint julep if he were to win. But I do think he's got a perfect style and a perfect setup to hit the board.
Your 9th mint julep. Does that mean you're coming to the Derby this year, or are you just drinking juleps wherever you are?
Well, I'm sure this question will come up pretty soon, so I'll save it. But I'm probably not going to go to the Derby, but I think I might have to go to the Oaks now.
That will come up, and that's good because we need you in town. We're going to have our live event. Details to follow, but our live event with TaylorMade Wednesday night that you will be in town for. And the Oaks. Well, we'll get there.
Wednesday night.
Yeah,
production meeting in the middle of the show Wednesday night or Thursday night?
I think it's Wednesday night. We'll double. We'll get all the information. There's time. Should be a live event. It will also be streamed as we've done in the past. Should be a lot of fun. Let's stick on the Derby for a second. Well, actually, I'll do my own follow-up from the Louisiana Derby. Any of those other horses you think you might be interested in coming out of that race in terms of first Saturday in May, or was really the story of the Louisiana Derby for you, that of Epicenter elevating himself to that upper echelon of horses? By the way, 8-1 you can bet on Epicenter at now, which is feels like the right price. If we were playing buy, sell, hold, I'd call that one a hold.
Yeah. I mean,
leaning towards a buy for you.
The 8-1 is too low. Unless there's nothing impressive in the Florida Derby, Wood Memorial, or Bluegrass. If one of those 3 or 2 of those 3 are impressive winners, triple-digit winners, Epicenter suddenly goes to 10-12-1.
And what about anything else? Answer that question about anything else out of the race. And we have another good question. Nothing else.
It was Epicenter for me, yeah.
Okay. And here's a good question that came across the transom. Are Derby future wagers a good bet? When might they be? When might they not be?
The only time I think it's good is if you get a better number than you're going to get on the day. And you have to account for the time in between of the horse getting to the gate. That has to count. It can't be like, oh, I'm going to get 5-1. He's probably going to be 8-1 on the day. That's not enough. Just take the damn 8-1 on the day, or the 5-1 on the day. You know what I mean? I said that backwards, but you know what I meant.
I know what you meant. You need to have some juice.
And I also think that you want to do future wagers are before, in my opinion, before the first round of Derby preps, or right at the after the first round of Derby preps. And it's probably not the winner of say the Holy Bull or the Fountain Youth. I think you want a horse that had a troubled trip coming on for third, that was well meant in the Fountain of Youth. That's the horse you Derby future wager. But I also have retired. Well, I guess I didn't retire because I have Zandon. But I've got a bad record. I had Mastery at 150-1, and I had Not This Time at 150-1.
Oof.
Neither of, and I Want Revenge.
That's a brutal one.
When I first started,
was a favorite the morning of the race and ended up scratching.
Yeah, I think I had him at 50-1. So I've had terrible luck with the old.
You weren't on the Justify train with me that year.
I wasn't.
Yeah, that was one. That was a good one.
And then I had Life Is Good. Had Life Is Good last year.
Oh, that's funny. You're not doing badly at picking generationally talented horses that go on to stud. I'll tell you that much.
Do not tell Chad about this.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, that's right. He's not gonna like the sound of it. But yeah, and I think then it also happens where like last year, and this was the double donkey kick of having Medaglia d'Oro and ending up going off a big, I think I was like, 25-1 on Medaglia d'Oro. That's just crazy. Not, I'm saying Medaglia d'Oro. Help me out on the Mandaloon on having 25-1 on Mandaloon. And then you get the double donkey kick of the price is bigger on the day and you win, but you don't get paid. But but now we're telling horror stories, but it can be a great bet if you get involved early. Or if you just find something where you have some piece of knowledge or opinion that isn't reflected in the marketplace. But I think you made a key point about you have to keep in mind the idea that these are not bets. And this is a phrase that we'll probably get a lot more familiar with fixed odds horse betting in the USA, but these are not non-runner, no bet situations. These bets are action, and that you need to pay a premium. You need to be getting a premium when you're making a bet that if the horse doesn't run, you still lose. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And then the other thing that I like to do with it, and I don't have like a strategy, to say, necessarily about it, but one of the things I like to do is basically come the first Saturday in May, if Zandon makes the gate, I'll be alive for, $30,000 or something like that. So basically when I'm constructing my tickets, whether it's pick fives, pick sixes, or betting the race, I can take that into account when building my construction. I can lean a little bit heavier on Forbidden Kingdom and not have to treat them as equals, because if Zandon wins, I'm still live there. If for whatever reason, I back off on Zandon a little bit, like, he didn't run as good as I wanted him to run in the bluegrass, but I still have this kind of protective ticket on him. I don't have to include him if I don't want to, or I can press him up if I want to. It just gives you options on the day, I think, if you can get alive to something.
They can be a great way to build equity, but you need to just go into these bets with your eyes open, I would say, is the key thing. It could become a real thing in the next few years with the fixed odds horse betting. We shall see, but I believe it could be really interesting.
Yeah, but I also think that it needs to be, in order for it to be better, and Craig Bernick has talked about this before, it needs to be every horse is Triple Crown nominated.
If bookies doing it easily could be.
It needs to be every horse is Triple Crown nominated. There needs to be a real institution that wants to back the situation, so that you don't bet $500 on Zandon at 150-1, and then you want to come back and bet 500. It's 100-1. You want to bet another 500. It's 60-1. Like, you need to have a real market where people can participate, starting early, starting at Saratoga when you have a maiden. When a horse, the fastest horse in the world, runs a 96 buyer on opening day at Saratoga, there needs to be an option to bet on that horse. Yeah. Then that's where the future becomes a real thing. To me, it's just still a little bit gimmicky just because of the way that it's set up.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But I mean, think about what fun it'll be from a podcast point of view, from a Fox Sports point of view, a Sky Sports Racing point of view, to be able to have real prices to talk about and just advance the conversation. It's the kind of thing that I think people, it'll make the sport easier to cover and to explain to other people, and to be able to tie in those big 2-year-old races specifically by saying, hey, to your casual fan friend, hey, that one race that you've heard of? Yeah, that one. You can get 100-1 on this horse to win that race next year. I could see it being a fun bet for the casual people, and just a great talking point for racing in general. One more Derby question before we pivot to the next topic that we have already teased. Where did it go? I had it here. How do we plan to evaluate the Baffert runners who've been switched to other barns to have their final Derby preps? I have a thought on this, but do you want to jump right in?
I mean, the good news is that you'll have an idea of who they are and what they're going to do prior to the Derby. The bad news is I don't think there's a real good answer to this in terms of how they're going to run in the preps. I mean, the one that I was the most impressed with was Messier. So, I mean, I feel like I could almost at this point get Messier there to run a fast number. So I would assume that Tim Yaktine and or Rudolph Brissett can kind of do the same with those horses. It's more of their foundation, right? They've been trained by Bob Baffert basically their entire lives. So, you know, they're going to do the same thing that Bob did, basically, anyways, when it comes to how they're going to work, how they're going to gallop. They're on this thing. Tim comes from Bob's school. Rudy is going to basically, I'm sure he's going to talk to Bob and, you know, and have an idea of what these horses want to do. I would look at it as Jimmy Barnes has the horse at Arkansas and just do what you need to do. I know that's not the best answer, but I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, toss them all. And I'm not going to lie to you and say they're all the same. I think you just have to treat them as individuals, worry a little bit less about who's training them, and worry more about the horse. If Messier ran a triple-digit buyer last time and that lays over a field and you want to single him, then single him. You'll probably get extra points because you'll probably get extra equity because of the fact that he was switched. If you never really liked him anyways, you thought he was primed for a bounce, this is even more reason that he's going to bounce. Toss him, whatever, do your thing.
You've said it perfectly, I think. I mean, the way I'd put it is I'm going to evaluate them at first on their face, just see how they fit in the context of a race, and just assume that they're going to replicate the form as if they were in the old barn. And then if it changes, I'll tell you. I mean, if they underperform, if the first one underperforms, I'll probably fade the second one. I will say that.
Yeah, but you gotta be careful of who shows up where and which races. Like, so which one is going to which one is going Doppelganger, right? Okay, so Doppelganger ran a 112 last time. He got blitzed by Forbidden Kingdom. He was closing into that situation. He got a 112 time form US. Secret Oath got a 114. They're going to bet her like she can't lose, especially that crowd at Arkansas. There's going to be value on Doppelganger if you like Doppelganger.
That's interesting. I didn't realize he was going to Arkansas.
Yeah, they've already drawn. He's entered.
Oh, fantastic.
And then who else? Is there another one? No, that's it. Oh, maybe. And then We the People, that's the horse that might be the horse you want in that race, not to get away ahead of ourselves. But I'm just saying, if you know Secret Oath's going to take all this money because she's a filly running against the boys, Doppelganger is in the mix of all of that kind of switching trainers things. Maybe We the People is the value. Maybe you like Doppelganger. I wouldn't get – the answer to the question is I think you're better off ignoring that it happened and just look at the horses.
Yeah.
I think you have a less chance of stepping in poo if you do that than if you try to make a lot out of it and try to make a decision based on it.
Right. I mean, if somebody wanted to say, look, I'm just going to toss them all because I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that feels like you might get lucky and that might work out, but why wouldn't you try to couple your handicapping opinion? I just don't want to be that level of conspiracy theorist and say that they're all going to back up. But if they underperform to not to market expectations, but to my expectations, that's the point at which I'll say, you know what? I don't know why this happened. I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist and, say, but I'm going to pay attention.
Yeah, but I think the other answer to the question is that you need to identify what your other opinions are within your wager. If you're playing the race exactas and trifectas, I think more importantly, what do you do with Doppelganger is what are your feelings about Secret Oath, right? I think if you're trying to figure out what to do with Messier in the Santa Anita Derby, it's less about Messier and more about how do you feel about Forbidden Kingdom. I feel like. And then conversely, if you're playing a pick five, what are your pick five opinions?
Yeah.
Do you want Doppelganger to beat you and you love a 20-1 shot earlier in the card?
Probably not.
Or are you spread like crazy in an earlier race? Then you just want to single Secret Oath or single We the People? I think you got to let the sequence decide what you do as well.
I think that holistic approach to ticket construction, you letting that be your guide, is a fantastic advice. You took it to a place that my brain didn't go instantly, but I think that's exactly right. Let's talk very, very, very quickly about Secret Oath. Just from what you've seen, are you a believer? Is your inclination to be with her or against her on Saturday? I think we've got you back for the late week show. You, me, and Matt will go over this race for real. So this isn't your final answer on this, but
yeah,
tell me what you think.
She's good. She's not a super. I don't want to say she can't be one, but she's not a superstar yet. I get it. Anybody, and this is no offense, but anybody other than Dwayne Lucas wouldn't do this.
That's probably about right. Though in the way that it works now, you have to take the shot before the Derby.
Yeah, so but I used to be like, "Ooh, runner against the boys, runner against the boys." I used to be that way when I was more of a fan, and not that I'm not a fan anymore, but I was less. I knew less about the industry as a whole. I used to root for that all the time. But if you own Secret Oath, winning the Kentucky Oaks is huge for you. Huge from a value standpoint, especially if you own the mare. It's huge. So it's like putting her in the Derby just to say you put her in the Derby. And I don't believe that winning the Derby makes her that much more valuable than if she were to win the Kentucky Oaks. Not that much more valuable.
I've talked to horsemen about this, and I've gotten somewhat divided opinions on it, where there is a school of thought that the Derby being the Derby, it's like almost incalculable, the value. But I think in terms of if you were to put like raw dollars and cents on it, and horsemen watching, correct us or correct me on this if I'm wrong. But I tend to lean towards what you're saying. But I mean, I think you're right that it's not a dollar's decision, right? It's an emotional. There's an emotional value of having your filly win the Derby and make history that truly is incalculable.
She's just not fast enough. She can win the Arkansas Derby, but she's not fast enough to win the Derby yet. Now, on Saturday, she might, she's kind of had weird trips too. She might just come out there and just blitz this field, get a nice pace to close into, and run a 102 buyer. And then suddenly she is a horse that I think makes some sense in a race like the Kentucky Derby. But so, I mean, I don't know. I think my instinct is going to be to try to beat her and try to beat her. I know that Lafitte Pinkai has said on our show, he did an interview with Ron Moquette, and he asked Ron Moquette, like, of all the horses on the grounds, like, which horse have you been the most impressed with? And this is before We the People's last race. And Ron Moquette said, if he could train any horse on the grounds at Oaklawn, it would be We the People. So as an opponent, a trainer, an opposing trainer, he really likes that animal. I just think that's an interesting note. He hasn't run quite fast enough for me to get overly excited about, but he did draw well towards the outside. So we'll see.
We'll talk about that race more later in the week. Last week, we did a whole show of way too early Derby predictions. If folks out there are watching and want to give us your own way too early Derby predictions, go ahead and do so in the comments on our YouTube channel. We are also doing this as an audio show, but for whatever reason, we've gotten froggy and decided to do YouTube for the last few early week shows, and we'd love to hear from you in there as well. Or you can hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Looms Boldly. He's at UT Big Hair. And we also have inthemoneypodcast.com and a contact page on there that goes directly to my email if you want to do that. That's enough Derby talk. Let's move on to some Kentucky Oaks talk, because we got a couple of questions about the big race for the fillies, the 3-year-old fillies on Saturday. And the first one, very straightforward. Do you think Reylu Gutierrez abandoned the whip a bit early on Hidden Connection? Hidden Connection just went down. I don't know what they called it in the end, a nose or a neck to the undefeated 2-year-old champion, Echo Zulu, of course. Both these fillies presumably heading on to the Oaks. What did you think about Reylu's ride on Hidden Connection, specifically his use or lack thereof of the whip?
Oh, no. I mean, when riders make that decision, I typically just side with them, and I joke about it that I've never sat on one's back outside of that time in Puerto Vallarta. You can also add the Bahamas. I rode one too.
Really? You had your second ever mount. That's impressive.
Yeah. But it was.
Did it go better than with Pedro?
No, it did not.
I think we decided.
Yeah, it didn't go good. Yeah, ask G about it next time. she was not
sand?
happy.
Were you eating sand?
No, it was just the guy that ran it was just a real idiot. Just a real idiot.
No sponsorship opportunity there. It doesn't sound like.
No, they don't have any money. Anyway, okay. So when a rider kind of decides to do something with his hands, or he's feeling something, and if he feels like he's getting what he needs to get out of a horse, I'm not going to argue with whether or not he should have used the stick or not. What I will say about that effort is that hindsight is 2020, and whatever. I wish he would have tucked in a little bit on the first turn. He kind of got himself into like no man's land where he ended up being 3 wide around there. Now, maybe he takes back and eats dirt and she doesn't like it, and then it's the same result. So you never really know. And the way that she galloped out, you got to ask yourself, should he have run at her early? Another thing I don't fault him for, it's just.
She had something left after the wire is what you're saying.
Yeah, she had something left. But look, I thought she ran well. I thought she tried hard. I thought she caught Echo Zulu, who was probably a step behind, and she almost beat her. It feels like Past the Champagne 2.0, or basically it's this big race before the Derby and before the Oaks, and you miss by a nose to who's probably the best horse in the crop, right? It was last year, it was Malafat. This year it was Echo Zulu. So I don't think that he abandoned the whip. And if he did, I'm not the one to answer that question. That would be a question for someone like Richie or Gary Stevens or Angel Cordero. I would defer to those guys when it comes to that decision.
Fair enough. Let's talk about what happens next. We had a question and a loaded question. It was here a second ago, and I feel like I'd somehow just accidentally deleted it. A loaded question because it's from Reagan Swinbank, who of course is involved with the team. Very curious what you thought, JK, specifically the next move might be for Hidden Connection. Is it on to the Oaks? Is a cutback potentially in order?
Well, the fun thing about Reagan is, he's fun in general. If you've never met Reagan Swinbank, I encourage you to do so. But when Reagan has a horse running, he always calls me in the morning. He wants to talk. He wants to kind of talk it through. He's nervous. He's excited, whatever. My other favorite thing Reagan does is he nervously sends videos, audio clips, or articles from people that are maybe sometimes saying something negative about one of his horses. And he sent me this video and he was like, "Hey man, it doesn't seem like these people really like Hidden Connection." I was like, "Don't worry, they're idiots." I just tell him "Oh, don't worry about those guys. Those are idiots. Oh, no, those people are stupid too. Don't worry about them. Worry about the people that matter. That guy likes them. That's more important than those. Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're good." And I talked to Jake about this too.
We should point out, Jake, of course, black type thoroughbreds. Reagan, some of you might have seen him and don't know that you've seen him because Reagan was the other owner who spoke to us when we did the black type thoroughbreds video at Breeders' Cup time. So yeah, these are friends and partners and all that. Yeah. Just a full
Reagan and Jake go way back, high school. Reagan was involved in Jake's basically first horse joining the dance that ran in the Derby. Reagan likes to say that I ain't new to the game. I'm true to the game. That's what he says. Anyways, so I talked to Reagan and Jake before the race, and I said, look, we'll see. If she wins, great. If she runs a bad second, like a clunk up second, Echo Zulu won by 10, then maybe you think about cutting her back in the 8 bells. But she didn't just run second. She ran a damn good second, and she could have won with an inch or two here or there. She doesn't need to run in the Kentucky Oaks. She earned the right to run in there. And I think that that's where they should go. I'd be shocked if they didn't. She doesn't. There's plenty of time to cut her back. You can cut her back in the Acorn in 5 weeks after the Derby and running the 1-turn mile on Belmont Day, if that's the route. If she runs in the Oaks and you feel like, okay, she doesn't want to go this far, let's cut her back. The way she finished that mile in the 16th race, chasing the 2-year-old filly champion, and the way she galloped out, I think she'll handle the mile in an 8th. And I told Reagan and Jake that a lot worse horses than her have won the Kentucky Oaks, and a lot more dominant horses than Echo Zulu have lost the Kentucky Oaks. So you got to show up. You have to show up in that race if everything points in that direction for her. I think the 8 bells would be a mistake, and I would tell Jake and Reagan that as well. She deserves it. She's earned a right to run the Kentucky Oaks.
Unless there's something that turns up in the pace figures that I'm not expecting, it did not look like the type of effort at the fairgrounds that I would think predicates or necessitates a cutback. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We've talked about this on the shows a lot, the importance of the gallop out for a horseman, for a horse player. And when you see a horse finish full of run like that at the mile and a 16th, it doesn't compute to me. Now, if we look at the pace figures, and they did peak more around the 7 furlong mile mark, and she was just kind of hanging around there, and they were both decelerating, and the gallop out was an optical illusion, which again, I'm not expecting, but that might turn my head around about this. But I mean, just the way it looked on the old eye test, the mile and an 8 should be just fine for her.
In the words of Paul Matisse, she uplined, so she was finishing her race.
Okay.
She was wide around there.
You've seen pace figures? Yeah, that's what it looked like, an upline finish for sure.
She was wide around there. It was her second start as the 3-year-old. There's a reason that she'll continue to progress. She was clearly short in that first race, and she was used too much early. So there's plenty of opportunities for her to take a step forward. Echo Zulu is going to take a step forward too, though, and I think everyone's aware of that. But that's fine. Look what happened to Malathot last year. She broke a step slow. She overcame it. But thinking about, I thought about a horse like Dreaming of Julia. How much better was she than the rest of that group? She ran 4th, or 5th. So, we'll see what happens. I would think that they'll be trending in that direction, given, unless the trainer suggests something different. But I don't see that being the case.
Good stuff. And I am glad you mentioned that about Echo Zulu. We had the great note from Frank McGoey on the Plus show that we related on the late week show that he thought that Echo Zulu had looked noticeably short heading into the race, meaning she's going to probably step up more than average in her next start. But it's big full field and an important race, and things happen. So it's not like I duck her. You know what I mean? She's supposed to run better, but so is Hidden Connection. We'll see how it plays out on the racetrack. Hopefully a story we'll be following with great interest, to be sure. While we're talking about Reagan, I guess I could have done this one before the other one, but whatever. We'll read it anyway. It's Derby related. What Derby What Derby prep races that remain are the most important to you? What horses are you waiting on prior to making your final decision in the Derby? We sort of covered this last week. For me, I think that one race I'm super interested in is the Santa Anita Derby specifically, and Forbidden Kingdom, to see how he does again going long, and to specifically look at how he performs in the late portion of that race to give me hope about his particular ability to go the 10 furlongs. Because I think if he can see out the distance, he has shown the kind of brilliance that I could really see keying a Derby day around. Of course, I'm also super interested to see your guy, Zandon, turning up in the Bluegrass, as well as Smile Happy, who I think has a very similar profile to Zandon. So, those two are certainly interesting, but it's hard to discount, Florida and Arkansas either. So for me, it's kind of equal, but if you made me pick one that I'm particularly looking forward to, it's the Santa Anita Derby for the reason I said. How about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, if Forbidden Kingdom is my top choice at this point, so I'm anxious to see him run. So that'll be the most important. And then look, I'm going to see Zandon run in the Bluegrass. I'll be there that day as well, so that'll be fun. And then honestly, the other three are just as important to me. I'm very interested to see what happens in the Arkansas Derby. I'm very interested to see what happens in the Florida Derby, and I'm very interested to see what happens in the Wood Memorial. So they're all important. But those two are the two horses I want to see run the most. So I would side with those two.
Here's one that this could be a very quick one, because the answer for me is I haven't heard anything about domestic spending. Do we know, is he still in training? Have you heard anything about this runner? It wouldn't shock me to see a horse like that have time off and be pointed at a second half of the year type of a campaign. But have you heard any info at all?
I haven't heard. The fact that he isn't, if he's coming back, they're not going to rush the guy said, they're not going to rush him back to now to run in these races early in the year. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't heard at all.
If you get any info on that, we can either hit it on Twitter or we'll mention it on the show later in the week. So let me know.
Yeah, you could probably. I would imagine if you tagged Chad on Twitter with that question, if it's a question he can answer, I'd imagine he would answer it.
That's a very good point. So yeah, not a bad idea to hit him up directly. He's very active on there. Here's an absurd one, but I love it. I think there was voting on this as part of the ABR Fan Choice Awards, an award I mentioned for no particular reason. It's not just because of those two statues sitting back there for best podcast, but your best racetrack sandwich, JK. You got one too. You're missing one. We got to get you another one.
I know, and that one's broke too.
How did you break? I still can't get over that you broke your.
It fell. It fell. I think.
I'm not letting you near the Eclipse Award when it finally gets here. You're not going to get to touch it. We can't have you breaking the $3,000 trophy.
That's fair. Best racetrack sandwich. All right. So I know people like the what is it? The corned beef, the Santa Anita one. What's that? The corned beef.
I love the carved sandwiches out there. The problem with
Correct.
San Anita is picking which one you want. I probably personally, give me that corned beef sandwich. Yes, I love that.
Okay, so I think I've had that before. Yeah, that's cool. But I don't think there's a sandwich that hits harder than than a Shake Shack in Saratoga when the day is just right, Especially the Chicken Shack with you add bacon to that bad baby. So
A Saratoga loyalist. This is a good. We'll pull in a question that I was saving for later. Are we planning a Saratoga lifestyle show this year with all the time JK has been spending up there? Can we get a sneak preview? And yeah, we'll definitely do a Saratoga lifestyle show. I think I sent that to you in your list of. I sent you a list of these are the shows we cannot live without you on this year, JK. One of them was a Saratoga lifestyle show, but I love this idea. I mean, you've been spending a hell of a lot more time there than I have. I've barely been up. What's good up in Saratoga lately? And don't say Salivo.
I'm basically like a resident. Yeah. So, obviously that you can hit Salivo, but
they're given. That's why I say don't say.
I found a barber shop that I love. Like my old barber in Austin doesn't watch this, so he's not gonna get his feelings hurt. But like I don't get my haircut in Austin anymore. I get my haircut here. It's called Boiler Room, and it's like right off of Phyla, and it's like tucked back in an alley. You can't really see it, but it's a really cool vibe in there. It's like underground, all brick. The guy Dakota is the main guy in there. Who cuts my hair. He's awesome. I'm gonna go I got a membership for the summer. You can get like a membership. So basically, I'm gonna go every week and just get tightened up.
That's awesome.
So he's awesome. I started going to a personal trainer in town. So if you're like here and you're trying to you're not trying to eat Shake Shack and get fat. That's been good. And then just like the regular things, the Starbucks on Broadway has been closed forever. I think they have like.
You shouldn't go to that Starbucks in Saratoga, man. You got Uncommon Grounds there, and you got Crew. You gotta.
I'm with you. I don't do those places. Where else? Look, Spring Street Deli is still hitting. I order from there. Chad Brown actually convinced me in Austin one time that the square pizza from Spring Street Deli is really good. In Austin, I ordered it one time and it was outstanding. So that's good. What else? There's a new pizza place too that we had one night that's good. A hidden move is going to Malta and hitting the hibachi spot. There's one in Malta that's fun, for a night to kind of get away from town and go over there and do that. Nove is always there. There's a million things. So
we had a good night at Nove for your engagement party. That was fantastic, and I was glad to see. It's kind of cool. Something that people might not think of, and maybe during the meet this would be prohibitive, but that private room there was awesome. That was like a very interesting idea if you're up in Saratoga to do a private event at Nove.
It is really cool, in the back because it's spacious. They got the TV so you can watch Del Mar. I think we've been there. I think you and I have been there back there a couple times. I think we did something with the Matisses back there.
Yep.
And then I think maybe Jonathan Thomas's birthday.
Correct. Like during the pandemic too, when it was like it wouldn't have been necessarily great to be in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. We were able to have 8 of us or whatever distanced in a private room. It actually felt safe. And that was definitely for JT's birthday. That was a great night.
Louis Lazzanero hooked that up. I'm trying to think if there's any new place. There's some new champagne bar, but I haven't seen it yet. I have a feeling it might be a little bit busy.
Busy or bougie or both?
Both. I think the name is like something like bougie actually, but trying to think what else.
I've got one for you. And I haven't been yet, but our friends at the Brentwood have rebranded their bar. They're going in more of like a wine bar direction. I want to have Marcus on to talk about it soon. They're doing like a bunch of fun food pop-ups and things worth having on the radar. And of course, for people planning on coming to Saratoga for the summer, this is probably a good time to check in with Marcus and see what they've got in terms of weekend availability, because they had a huge year last year. They sold out just about every weekend. I think we're going to be back there, or at least I'll be back there on Sundays doing some sort of modified talk show where we give some picks. Might be doing something a little different for Saturdays this year. That's all yet. That's in a production meeting in the show down the line. But Brentwood, if I were there personally, I would want to check out that wine bar. That's not too far from what are we calling it? El Casa Roja?
Yeah, Casa de Rojo.
Casa de. Okay. I got it all wrong.
Yeah, House of Red. Yeah, Casa de Rojo.
Because it's red and presumably a lot of red wine is consumed there as well.
There is some red wine here.
You mentioned your personal trainer. Here's a production meeting in the middle of the show we can have. Should we do another bike ride this week? We had our little Peloton. It was very romantic. We took a scenic ride. We got to watch sunset at Joshua Tree, and then we burned a few calories. It was good.
It's gonna have to be probably tomorrow because I go home. I go home Thursday for the weekend, and then I come back. So.
All right. Well, we'll figure out about your late week show involvement as well. Hopefully, we can steal you for a few minutes to have you on with Matt Bernier to talk about some of these key preps. We do have 10 minutes left and a handful of questions, so let's get to them. With contests continuing to pick up in popularity, is there a central location that puts out a schedule? This is a great question, and actually, I don't want to say a business idea because it's not exactly a business, but it's a great content idea, I think, for In the Money Media, because the answer to this is a hard no. Like, you can find information about NHC contests on the NTRA website. You can find Breeders' Cup contests on the Breeders' Cup site, but there's nothing that collates all the information and puts it together. Every ADW is going to promote what they're doing. Every track is going to promote what they're doing. But what do you think about this as an idea? Who knows, JK, maybe for a viewer watching now, maybe for somebody on the team already to reach out to the important contest directors and have some sort of real schedule. Not all the little, we don't need to know about a $50 or $100 daily. We don't need to know about stuff happening daily on contest sites, but in terms of key events to highlight it, wouldn't it be nice if there was one place you could go and see what was up?
Yeah. I thought the place with the letters did that, but I guess they don't do that. I guess maybe it has to be one of their events. It's probably wrong anyways. So,
they don't have events since we left. They don't have events.
Oh, I wasn't talking about that place with the letters. I was talking about the other place with the letters.
We have a new place with the letters. No, they're only their stuff. They're only. Oh my God, I completely missed that reference. That just sailed over my head. But yeah, they're you can, if you want to find out about that big contest. By the way, did you see that they've rescheduled their event for next year? I feel like I'm getting into hot water even talking about this with you, but I'm going somewhere with this. They've rescheduled for March. It's the weekend. I'm pretty sure it's the weekend before Cheltenham. So I'm not going to be able to attend. I think I'm going to tell people I'm doing it in protest for you, though, John. Do you mind? It's complete BS. It's complete BS. I'd totally go if I were here, but I'm going to tell them it's because I'm standing with you.
Just say you're going to go to Cheltenham. It's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, I unsubscribed, so I didn't see the email. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I got plans, but
let's move along quickly. I do think that's a good idea for if seriously though, before we move on, if you're out there in the world, if you're interested in contests, if you feel like getting involved and having a little side project, I would platform the heck out of somebody who wanted introductions to the right people to have. We're super interested in all the, it's not about the online. I mean, look, having the big online stuff on there would be great, but it's more about, let's look at the schedule of on-track places, especially where you can qualify for an event like the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. Perhaps you can be the person to beat JK into second in next year's event.
Yeah, but frankly, obviously Keeneland's going to have their contest. Naira making some changes.
Any inside info? Sneak preview?
Nah,
what do we know? No,
it's coming soon. So they'll kind of announce their schedule coming up soon. And then the Santa Anita stuff. Tyler's doing a phenomenal job. I think there's a Florida Derby contest coming up next weekend. I think they're going to try to do something maybe Derby wise.
That's been listed on. They have now released a schedule that has a Kentucky Derby, a Preakness, and a Belmont contest on it, JK. Seems like it would be a shame not to find a way to connect those three events, huh?
Yeah, beautiful. That's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Do we know anybody who knows anybody?
I know someone who knows someone. Yeah,
okay.
I know someone who knows someone.
We'll leave that one with you then. But yeah, but you see what I mean? There's not like if I just don't have the darn bandwidth, people, I'll be honest with you, but like,
Yeah.
I would love it if I had the ability to have a page on the website where you could just go and see what's coming up. And then of course, very logically, content could grow out of the two interviews with winners, as long as they're not on the ITM no fly list.
There's only about 4 of those people. So.
Now we're going to move on for real. But if you're interested, seriously, reach out. I'd love to talk to somebody who's got the time, energy, and bandwidth to get a project like this going. And I think there's a way, honestly, I think there's a way it could be monetized in time too. But anyway, that's a topic for another time. Wagering theory debate. This is interesting. Let's say you have 3 races in a row you're interested in. You have a price horse. Would you rather focus on hammering a pick 3 with those horses, or complicating things a bit, but potentially improving your payout by adding a short-priced favorite into the mix? What are the pros and the cons? Does something leaps to my mind? Does anything leap to your mind?
Well, it's a good question. First of all, your 3 price horses are probably not all going to win. So depending on how you're going to structure it to protect for one of those legs, you're going to be wrong, and your price horse is going to run second. It's just inevitable, unless you're just having one of those days. I think that the way that so here's the answer to the question: where is the 1-2 shot? Is the 1-2 shot the first leg of the pick 4? So the late pick 3 is going to be a big pool. Then maybe you don't need to mess with the pick 4. If the 1-2 shot is the second leg, then you kind of have to play the pick 4. If it's the third leg, you have to play the pick 4. If it's the last leg, this is probably the trickier one, is because first of all, the 1-2 shot is not an open pool. You're probably going to have a 6-5 morning line, and that last leg on this horse is going to go off at 1-2, because no one has the balls to make horses 1-2 on morning line except for David Aragona. so you can hide your 1-2 shots hidden a little bit. If it's the first or the second leg, the computers are going to catch it because they're going to see it in the doubles and they're going to see it in the will pays. So it depends on where the 1-2 shot is. But I've always believed that if you can eliminate a leg, it's an opportunity for, it's funny. The real word I want to use is a 4-letter word, and you just put ERY at the end of it.
Okay.
Trickery. I'll go with trickery, but it's actually
a little bit different.
A different one. Yeah. If you can eliminate a race, then you eliminate an opportunity for trickery or for something crazy to happen or someone to step out of the gate. Chaos. Yeah. Otherwise known as effery. So it depends on where the 1-2 shot is.
I like that answer, and I'll elaborate on it, because depending on, just to piggyback, if the 1-2 shot is in the first leg of a late pick 4, say, that horse could play in the pick like a much shorter horse. You know what I mean? Could be 1-2 on the board, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, 1-9 in the pick.
He's gonna flash 1-5 at some point on the win pool. So every mope who is down on the day, who's trying to play the last pick 4 to get out, they're going to single that horse. They're going to kill your payoff. Yeah. Just wait for the pick 3 and play the pick 3. And then the pick 3. Generally speaking, also, I will say that I'm a fan of keeping it as simple as possible. Now, an interesting way to change the question, because I agree, the theoretical of the 3 price horses in a row is just it's super unlikely to even happen, and it's even more unlikely that they're all going to win. But I do think you can apply the very same logic to the idea of just 3 races in a row where you have a strong opinion. And that can be an opinion either, maybe it's a single, maybe it's lock it up with 2, maybe it's lock it up with 3 and you're against the favorite, any kind of opinion like that. Where do you lean in terms of, if there's that shorty in the extra leg? And for me, where possible, I do like to keep things, super. I want to keep it as simple as possible. So if the 1-2 is just the 1-2 that everybody sees, like, I'd rather just leave that aside and focus on where the stronger opinion is. That's another piece of it for me. But I will say this: we're talking about the pick 4, and let's talk about the pick 4 a little bit. For one, it's one of the most popular bets. It's not the hardest bet to hit, obviously. It's 4 races and so on and so forth. I think the computers are pretty aggressive in the pick 4 because it's a big pool. They can be very efficient in the pick 4. And the takeout is still pretty high in the pick 4. If the question was, do you use the 1 to 2 shot to make that pick 3 more of a pick 5 look? The answer for me would be yes in a pick 5 because the pick 5 is more difficult to hit. The takeout is lower in the pick 5. The computers aren't nearly as prominent in the pick 5. They still play it, but it's not as a rewarding of a wager for them. So to me, there's a lot more meat on the bone within a pick 5. So I would play the pick 5 in that situation, but I wouldn't play the pick 4. I'd just play the pick 3.
Great stuff. Good answers, JK. Appreciate your chiming in. Appreciate you being here today. That's all the time we have because I realize I got to leave some time to make a couple commercials too here before we get out of here. If you're watching the show, you'll have seen those at the beginning of the show. But anyway, JK, appreciate you coming on and all that you do and sharing your insights. And as I said, we're going to be seeing a whole lot more of you as we ramp up, typically what's been our busiest month of April. And folks that want more of you, you've also been helping out with our In the Money Plus site. How's that been going for you? Been enjoying doing that? Have you been happy with the picks so far?
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I forget I don't know what I did this weekend. What did I do? I did
you did Naira.
I think I did I did Naira. I did the late pick 5 at Naira. I forget sometimes. So, but yeah, all good. I'm having fun.
Good. You can learn more about that in themoneypodcast.com/plus. We haven't discussed this yet, but we're going to be doing another free preview specifically of your act soon as well, Jonathan. I was thinking maybe opening day of Keeneland might be a good one to get some free content out there, a day that a lot of people play, one of those days like opening day of baseball season where we really get those first day of spring vibes as sport fans and horse players. And with that, well, thank you one more time, JK. He's taking a call. You're good. We can remove you. You can get out of here. Well, thank you one more time. We're going to thank our founding partners, 10 Strike Racing. You know around here how we love to root for the purple and black. I'm even wearing some today, as well as the TRF. And we've still got just a handful of our whiskey bottles left. If you make a donation to the TRF, you can get a bottle of whiskey. We also have those signed Woodford Reserve bottles still, just a couple. So if you're interested in that, act now. trfinc.org/players. Some big news about a new Triple Crown related promo for TRF coming up, hopefully on this show next week. Who else do we want to thank? Well, thank producer Craig. He helped out. I actually somewhat semi-produced the show myself, but he's doing the really annoying bits. So we will thank producer Craig. This show's been a production of In the Money Media. Our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatel. Almost said Pistol Pete. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatel. May you win all your photos.